Okay, let's have a look at tutorial 5. So this is explaining about magic power and magic attacks. You should read all of this stuff, but I'll just explain it as we go along. Looking at the map, we have these two sprites to either side. They're tempting, but I'd rather not waste the time it would take to go get them and let the enemy wizard take the centre of the map, so I just want to advance. I'm going to do without the sprites and cast a fake goblin. In law mode, the goblin's very cheap, so if I cast an illusion, it saves me 10 mana, and it's highly unlikely that it will be disbelieved. Okay, here comes a magic attack, and I'll talk about it just after this pop-up about undead creatures, which you should also read, which I'll also explain as we play. So the magic attack has infinite range and can target anything other than structures. If it hits a creature in law mode, it will do damage. We saw that the goblin took 91 damage, and if you hit a wizard with it, the wizard will lose spells. The single magic attack is more powerful and therefore will do more damage than the triple attack, but the triple attack can target up to 3 creatures. And as you can see, the triple attack, the wizard only loses 1 spell. With a single attack, the wizard will lose 2 spells. I have the mega spell over here, which is a more powerful and more targety version of the standard spells. The amount of damage done by a magic attack is dependent on your magic power, your opponent's magic power, and the target creature's magic power. Typically, law creatures have better magical defense, as do the harder to cast creatures. So we can see the Hydra has a magic power of 120, which makes it fairly resistant to magic attacks. But I would guess less resistant than the equivalent law creatures. All that said, let's press on forwards. So as usual, this purple radius here is how far the enemy wizard can cast a magic bolt, and we can see that the green hexes are how far the enemy wizard can move. So we want to stay the 2 movement hexes outside of this purple zone so that we can't be bolted. So we'll move up here, and I will cast, I'll be a little cheeky, and I'll cast a fake skeleton. So the skeleton has the undead attribute. And it's quite a good attacking unit. It's very weak on defense. So undead creatures can only be attacked by other undead creatures, or by magic attacks, and by magic bolt, and anything with the undead slayer attribute. So the enemy wizard has the undead slayer attribute. So the enemy wizard can punch the skeleton and do damage to it, but my goblin couldn't punch an enemy skeleton. I think the Paladin unit, which we haven't seen yet, and the Icarus Tower are other units that have the Undead Slayer attribute, but it's fairly rare on creatures. So undead are quite versatile and can be quite a problem for the enemy wizard. So yeah, the enemy wizard is going with a magic attack because it knows it can damage the skeleton that way. Okay, because I've cast all these fakes, I now got enough mana for a Hellhound, which is something else I should talk about. So let's move these guys up here, but we're going to stay 1 hex out of the green movement zone so that the enemy wizard can't just come forward and punch these. I can move forward to here and cast something here, and the enemy wizard won't have line of sight to me. And because it's been exclusively using magic attacks, I'm now ahead on creatures. So I'm going to put down a real Hellhound here. The Hellhound's quite a tasty creature. And it's explaining here that it has the Paralysing Stare ability, which is a range attack that's defended by magic power. The Hellhound is generally a pretty good creature. So the Hellhound's Paralysing Stare and the Wizard's Paralyze spell can perhaps more accurately petrify an undead creature and make it vulnerable to conventional attacks. So if the enemy wizard had a skeleton out here, I could paralyze it using my Hellhound, and then the goblin could walk forward and punch it, and that would probably kill it because the paralysing stare halves the enemy unit's defense, and also means it can't move and can't attack back. The paralysing stare, the effectiveness of it is dependent on the Hellhound's ranged attack strength, which is 50, versus the target's magic power. So again, law creatures are harder to paralyse. Neutral creatures always often have fairly weak magic power. So the enemy wizard's going with a triple attack there. It's taken out the goblin and the skeleton entirely, and it's weakened the hellhound. And now we'll get a chance to see the paralysing stare in action. The enemy wizard has a magic power of 100, which is pretty decent, so the paralysing stare doesn't have great odds. And it's failed, the enemy wizard can still move. But they can't immediately kill this hellhound, and this lump here will block line of sight to me, so I can't be bolted. So I can move forwards to here and cast. I think I'll cast a real goblin, because otherwise the enemy wizard could disbelieve it, punch me and bolt me, and that'll be the end of my game. The other undead creature we have here is the vampire. The vampire is quite a tough cast, but every time it kills a real living creature, it gets buffs to its attack and defense, which are both pretty decent to begin with. I'm going to try the paralysing stare again. The hellhound's close combat attack is comparatively weak, so I usually prefer to use them to freeze an enemy. Although what will it? It'll take up about a third of the wizard's health. But the wizard will do it some damage. Let's see if I can freeze the enemy wizard. Yes, I can. So the enemy wizard now can't move, although they can still cast spells. And every turn they'll have to make a roll against their own magic power to see if they can shake off the paralysis. And as you can see there, their defense value is halved. And if the wizard was undead, all of my units could now attack it while it's in this state. So let's see if we can take out this dwarf and move up with the goblin. So magic attack will take off about 2/3 of the dwarf's health, and I think the goblin can finish the job, so we're going to do that. That was fake dwarf. It's a classy move by the enemy wizard. And we're going to move these guys forwards, because the enemy wizard can't attack them this turn, and that leaves it only this hex that it can cast in, so it couldn't cast blocking stuff like Vine or something like that. And we're going to stay here, because then we can't be bolted. Because I'm not confident of... Yeah, I don't think that lumpy thing there would block line of sight. Okay, so the skeleton's a reasonable cast and the paralysis is worn off, but I think I can't quite do this in one. What I might try and do, though, I can take off about a third with... Yeah, I can. So I can magic attack this spider. Finish it off with a punch. So the spider isn't a problem for the next turn. And the enemy wizard should be engaged with its agility of 60 versus the sum of these, which is 100. So it's not going to be able to move this way at all to bolt me. So the worst it can do is cast some kind of creature here again. So I'm going to have... and I'm going to go with physical attacks now, because I don't want the enemy wizard moving around. So the enemy wizard is dead next turn. Yeah, that was a desperate move to be sure. If it could have disbelieved both of these, it could have punched and bolted me, but that's not to be. Let's finish it with the 5-finger death punch. Okay, and we are victorious.